Hey, bro, I need you to sit here because I need to do the recording. Can I take that? Can I just hold it?
Okay, it's great to be able to be with you guys this morning. We are trying to share with you a number of the resources that are available around the world. And of course, there was a paper handed out yesterday. I think most of us got it, so there's a lot of that on there. We wanted to share a little bit about what's available and some of the different resources. So I'm going to be sharing about a site called ICOC Hot Resources. And this we've tried to make as a digital download site, okay? So there's a lot of sometimes challenges with shipping in some of the third world or second world countries that it's hard to ship and it's expensive to ship materials. So the focus on this side is actually trying to make everything digital so you can download it. So myself and Mike Tolliver originally came up with this, and we designed this site together and try to tie it in with Hotnews, and then of course we've got a bunch of tabs at the top in terms of what are some of the resources there. So probably the most popular at the moment is the Bible Talks, the Bible Talk downloads. And we probably have about 1,000 downloads of Bible Talks, and you can sort of there are a number of different series of 10 Bible Talks or 5 Bible Talks in a series and a Christmas series and different things that you can get. They're very nicely formatted, so it's $5, okay, you can download them and then print them out. And a lot of disciples around the world are looking for sort of fresh ideas for Bible Talks. These have well worked out kind of intro, icebreaker type things to get people interested, and then some well worked out sort of Bible Talks. Then also on the site you also find sermon series. So if preachers are thinking, man, I'm looking for something interesting to teach on this, I'm a little stuck in my preparation, there's a whole bunch. We probably have about 20 or 30 sermon series, like on the book of 2 Peter, and you get with it, you can't see it from the back unless you've got really good eyes, but you get the transcripts of the lesson, very well worked out. You get 3 PowerPoints for this is a 3 sermon series, and then the audio files as well, MP3 audio files, so that you can actually listen to it and understand a little bit. So it's a sort of a comprehensive resource that people can use from around the world. All right. Then there's also quiet time booklets. We have a series of different booklets. On the tabs at the top, you can see sort of the booklets. So there's quiet time booklets. There's discipling times. So 15 discipling times that people can use. Young guys are sort of getting into how do I have a great discipling time on different topics. So there's a series of different booklets you can download as well. Again, also just for $5, so it's easy to get. Okay, and then our sermon series, we have a whole bunch of financial classes there, which we've taught in Southern Africa, and we've actually had the guys in Texas have taught these as well, called Treasure Principle. Well, in San Antonio, maybe not all in Texas, and a couple of places, San Antonio. We've seen this, that we teach this without accountability, without anything. The giving in the church goes up 25-30% just after teaching a series on finances and God's heart for it. And we try and teach an annual sermon series in South Africa on this. And again, it just helps people understand God's heart for this. Greed is a very dangerous sin, and it can grab a hold of people's hearts. And one of the best antidotes to greed is giving. And learning God's heart behind it and all the scriptures on it really helps people to be generous and give, I think, what God expects them to give. And so there's a whole bunch of these on there. It's not only Malachi, we also have Treasure Principle, and we're going to be adding some other ones there as well. So that is something you can download. And then Dave has actually added an extra tab here called Grounded, and he's going to get up a little later and talk about Grounded. But the other tabs, we've got Campus Campaign, so it's for the campus. They want to start a campus series off, and so it's sort of the devotionals that you have to sort of get your campus students all fired up. It's a Bible Talk series. It's an invite card that's graphic design is prepared for it, so that, again, these are sort of really ministry-specific helps to be able to help sort of resource churches around the world, and there's no shipping. So that's nice. Okay. So that's really ICOC Hot Resources. I think Paul's going to come up now and talk a little bit more. Oh, Dave is going to talk about Grounded, and then Paul will come up and close us out. They want you to
hold the box.
They want you to hold the box. So
Can the box sit right here?
You have to ask them. Maybe like that.
Okay. Wow. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Justin and I were together for 4 years in South Africa, and we talked a lot together about creating these resources that would be easy for churches to use so that we don't have to keep recreating the same thing in every church. So this was something that he had already started. We kind of jumped on board and learned from him. I just want to make a plug for Treasure Principles. It's the most powerful thing that we have ever seen change people's hearts about giving. I would highly, highly recommend that you get Treasure Principles. If you haven't looked at it, got it, use it in your churches. It literally in San Antonio, our contribution has almost doubled in the last 2 years because we've taken and done Treasure Principles 1 and Treasure Principles 2. It's really powerful. So let me explain what we've been working on. My wife and I have been in ministry for 23 years. I serve as a teacher I was a teacher in Africa, and we were wrestling with how do we create content that can be used in our African churches for the people that aren't in the full-time ministry. Because a lot of our churches are led by people that didn't have time to develop resources. And so that was our initial beginning. But it's now expanded to be kind of a worldwide ministry. We first of all started by spending 2 years really thinking about our conversion process. The Bible studies that we had and where we wanted to go, and we rewrote the first principles. That's the one that's called Making Disciples. And we added a Jesus study that's a lot more friendly. It's out of the book of Mark. The book of John is a little deep for non-Christians. So we went out of the book of Mark. We added a lordship study that's kind of a counting the cost study. We spent some time going through the whole New Testament and looked at all the sins in the New Testament, not just the sins in Galatians 5. And we did a definition of all the sins in the appendix in the New Testament. This is a great little manual to help people become Christians. Then for years, Beth and I have worked in teen ministry since 1999. We've done teen ministry for 15 years. And we kept being asked by people, how do we help teenagers become Christians? And we finally decided to write a manual of how to work with teenagers. This goes through all the things that are the same with anyone and what's different about working with teenagers. How do you help them develop a relationship with God? What if they're a kingdom kid? What if they're not a kingdom kid? How do you work with their parents? What kind of homework can you give them to make sure that their faith is real? So that's what this is. This is our #1 bestseller, I believe. Right, Paul, is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, around the world, Studying the Bible with Teens is
By
our
far.
bestseller. Then we started having a lot of people ask us what to do with teenagers before they become Christians, even before they're ready for the study series, right? And a lot of people have been using character studies that were in the old books, and I've talked to Phil Arsenal. Phil wrote those. He didn't realize what was going to be done with those, and we're in agreement about this. Character studies, in my opinion, are the wrong place to start studying the Bible with somebody. We don't want to teach kingdom kids that they have to change in order to get ready to have a relationship with God. None of us need to have to be good enough to have a relationship with God. We need a relationship with God and then we change. So we've got to teach our kids to spend a lot more time developing their relationship with God and then make the changes that they need to. So we're actually working on a number of series right now, my wife and I, that are going to be more stuff for preteens and young teens and things that will help them get ready to make their faith decision. But one of the things that we did put out recently is these 8 teen Bible studies. This is 8 Bible studies that we found were consistent needs for teenagers. How do you build a relationship with God? How do you choose friends at school? How are you spiritual at school? How do you learn to not be selfish and live a life of love? How do you deal with temptation? How do you understand dating? The last study in here is about dating. So these are 8 Bible studies specific to teenagers. Then after we wrote these conversion helps, we started seeing that we've got to do a lot more training with young Christians. When they come out of the waters of baptism, what are we giving them? And so we are working on creating 6 separate series. We call these our foundation series. This is all for young Christians to ground them in the Bible. We started with Life in the Kingdom. This is 8 lessons for young Christians about how to get grounded with God, how to get grounded with one another, and how to understand now your relationship with the world around you. We deal with things like, how do you deal with conflict? Because as a Christian, you're going to have conflict with other Christians. There's a whole conflict resolution Bible study. How do you understand God's love for you? How do you show God your love for Him? How do you develop your spiritual disciplines? So we taught this as a midweek series to the entire church in South Africa. The old Christians loved it. It was great reminders for them. And so what we ended up doing, we recorded us teaching this, put all the PowerPoint presentations and the PDFs so we could give handouts to the church, and we created a thumb drive for church leaders so that you as a church leader now have an 8-week series if you want to teach this in your church. So the church leaders are loving these, so they have everything on that thumb drive. We have these as well at our table. Then our second Foundations one was on marriage. These are 8 Bible studies of pretty much everything the Bible has to say about marriage. From the covenant that God expects in marriage. We see a lot of Christians that downplay the importance of that lifelong commitment. Roles, spirituality, intimacy, it's all in here. Every Bible study, we send them home with homework. What do you need to reflect on personally? What do you need to talk about in your marriage? And how do you need to talk about this with another couple? We did this over 16 weeks in Johannesburg. We would teach 1 week, and then the next week they were to have all the homework done. Then they came back for week 2. The last study in here is on dating. We feel like our marrieds are the ones giving the advice to the singles. But a lot of our marrieds weren't married well in the kingdom. They didn't do it right. So the last study is, now that you understand marriage, how do you teach a dating couple about dating? And then there's a whole checklist about getting ready for marriage. We're now finding people use this for pre-marriage counseling. This becomes a great Bible study for pre-marriage counseling. All 8 lessons. My wife and I teaching, all the PowerPoints and the handouts, another USB drive, the green one. This is our brand new one we just finished. Discipling is a really big issue in our churches. This is 6 Bible lessons on discipling. What does the Bible teach about it? Model of discipling relationships, the principles, the practicals. How do you pursue discipling? How do you give discipling? That's all in this one. We just finished this. It just got printed last week. This one, we video recorded all 6 lessons. And what we're doing in Southern Africa is actually showing the videos at midweeks so the church leaders don't even have to teach this one. So we're going to hopefully have another thumb drive with the videos. So if you buy that one, all you'll need to do is, if you want to, play it, and you'll have a guest speaker for 6 weeks in your churches. Okay? On the back of this one, it explains the other things that we're working on. Our next one is going to be Foundations of Parenting. We're going to do 8 lessons, Bible lessons on parenting. Foundations in the church, what our role in the church should be, how we interact in the church, and Foundations of Finances. So those are some of the things that we're working on with Grounded. We also have a website with over 100 free resources, getgroundedforlife.com. And it's on every book, but we have all this stuff for sale in the middle there. Come and see us today.
Awesome.
Amen.
Amen.
This thing cannot move. So Dave goes off the cuff. I pretty much actually have notes. He's pretty good about that. I did want to take 2 pictures. Just one of the group, and then I'm going to try to do a selfie with all of you. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And then 1. See if I can almost get everyone in. 1, 2. There we go. All right. Let's see. So I'm just a little nervous because I thought Sam Lang was going to be in here also.
You will do awesome.
Yes. So this right here, if you can see the orange and brown, and there's an IP. All right. Basically, my boss, Tony Mulholland, started this company in 2007. All right, so his history his bio is that he has been in the print industry since the late 70s. He's got about 30 years of experience. He was in the Crossroads movement, and he actually did their weekly, what's the word I'm looking for? The bulletin. Yeah. Thank you. He did their weekly bulletin. That's how far back he goes. He actually was asked to be on staff in Boston. There you go.
Look at that.
All right. Stereo. He was asked to move to Boston and be on the full-time staff there. He actually started DPI along with Tom and Sheila Jones. He was actually the last one to be let go, and that was 2006. So he actually started his new company, Illumination Publishers, in 2007. Just so you kind of have some background on who it is, how this got started. As well, for me, most people don't recognize me except for at the book table. So I'm trying to get our name out there, Illumination Publishers. I've been a disciple since '99. I've been in the ministry, paid, unpaid, since 6 months after I became a Christian. Everything from teens, preteens. I was in the teens for 8 years. Preteens, Kids Kingdom, ushers, the whole gambit. So I have a unique view. I was raised as a disciple in LA. So we got a lot of great training, a lot of formal training. So I was able to take that with me to Illumination Publishers. What I'm going to do is kind of bring you a unique perspective. Since I've been in the unpaid ministry and the paid ministry, and then on the other side where I'm not in the ministry really, but this is a ministry for us, I get to go all over the world basically to all the different conferences. I've been to 4 conferences. This is my 4th conference in a month and a half.
Wow.
So amen. But so what I've been able to see though, and what I'm going to bring to you is that there's been a change in our culture all over the world about reading and taking in more information. You're only as smart as you are right now, and you're not going to get any smarter if you don't educate yourself. We have to be a student the rest of your life. The best experience, what books bring and what resources bring, is they bring someone into your house and teach you the experience that they had and what they went through, good and bad. And the best way to experience something is through other people's experience. You have hundreds of years of experience in all the books that we produce of people that we all respect in the kingdom. You have the Sam Langs, the Douglas Jacobys. They put John Oakes. They put these out there so that you don't really have to do the work. I mean, because if you think about when you read one of these books, the amount of work that they put into them, it's a lot. And so, who is IP? So a lot of people think DPI. They usually think that word DPI. DPI actually got retired this year. Sheila retired. Her and Tom actually do another print company called Good Book Press. They still have their own books, about 20 or so of those books. We acquired their entire inventory, about 27,000 books, also with all their authors. So we went from pretty much about 25 authors to probably over 45 easily. So as Illumination Publishers, just to let you know, I'm the director of marketing, so I do everything that has to do with web design, app design, the whole gambit. I also work for ICOC Hotnews as their administrator. I also work for Disciples Today as an editor, and I also run their DT media store as well. Illumination Publishers, we currently represent about 95% of the authors that are in the kingdom. So you have about 5% that are just self-producing on their own. The biggest thing about this business is that as disciples, everything that we publish has to do with kingdom teachers, evangelists, elders, regular members, and it can be trusted. So a lot of people don't even know the website that we have on here, ipibooks.com. We have over 525 products. About 400 are from us, about 100, maybe 150 are from DPI, and then there's other authors and Bibles that we have on there. Sorry, I'm getting dry mouth like crazy. Okay. So just to show you how much our movement has been growing, in the last 3 months, we've done 6 books, 6 brand new books. What does that translate? The average publisher, like that are small, do about 4 to 6 books a year. We've done 6 in the last 3 months.
Wow.
So what that means is, and what that translates to, is that there's a hunger in the kingdom that's ferocious now. You know, back when I got baptized in '99, that's how it was. Every book that DPI produced, it's like we ate it up. So you're seeing that definitely more and more. People wanting to educate themselves, like, where do I fit in the kingdom? I'm not a leader yet, but what do I do? So what Douglas Jacoby's really good at is handing people, instead of trying to tell them, he hands them a book and said, read this. That's really what the resources is for, not necessarily for you to always teach them as leaders, which is good though, but to also be able to give them something. Out of 525 resources, we pretty much cover the gambit of things that somebody would ask about. So in the last 6 months, we've done 9 books. These are not including audio or DVD or any of the new things that DPI had just produced. In the last year to year and a half, we produced 17. Last 2 years, in 2012, we produced 12 books. So we went from 12 books to over 30 in a year. So you're seeing a lot of movement with this to be able to help you guys better educate yourself, but also the people that you're over. The categories are typically like from married, pre-married, and family. We have about 30 plus resources. These are like family devotionals, marriage, raising kids, and activity books just for kids. The age range is from 4 to 18 years old. So you have 4 to 18. Pretty much we cover everything that they can learn from. As far as new Christians, we have about 15 products that we commonly recommend: Deep Convictions, The Lion Never Sleeps, 30 Days at the Foot of the Cross, Shine Like Stars, Disciples Handbooks, and we have 3 different quiet time books that are a year long. As far as Spanish, I don't know if we have any Spanish brothers in here. We have about 25 products now. We also have ebooks. I get asked about ebooks a lot. I have cards outside. If we have about 14 books that we have ebook on iPad and Kindle. I can do a PDF of most of the books if somebody sends me an email and they want the book on PDF because it costs too much to ship. That's usually not a problem. But typically, I've sold maybe 10 ebooks in the last 2 years. So it's not as hot as I guess everyone thinks, but I know that internationally it's a little more probably than it is locally in the United States. So our goal, Tony's goal, my boss, was to produce and publish a book or audio on every book of the Bible. We're about 70% to that. So, we cover the minor prophets and the major prophets individually, Matthew, John, 70% of the Bible. You think about that, 66 books. So you have a lot of resources there, and these are most of them are by teachers in the kingdom: Steve Kennard, Douglas, John Oakes, in-depth stuff. And we really have a range that's, appropriate for anyone. You have John Oakes and Doug, who are the MIT, the Harvard guys, the thinkers. And then you have, Sam and Jerry. They really put things in a very easy way, very easy translation. Their Essential 8 for marriage workbook is an all-in-one. It's about an hour and a half of work a week. It's about as simple as you get. So the idea here is that what we want to do is set up international or national book tables around the world. We found a way recently to ship cheap to most countries that are along the coast somewhere, where you're going to get ports of call. So that's been new just recently, and also because of Dave Pachta and his futuristic thinking, he put the thumb drive that he had. He also had another drive that he put all those little booklets on. So for international, what we're going to try to do as well is get Doug, John Oakes, all these guys that go around, get them actual thumb drives with all the books on them, so that you'll have the resources available, whenever you like. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the AIM, the Athens Institute of Ministry. Is anybody? Okay, so this is a training place that Doug works at and several of the teachers. It's in Georgia. Basically what it is they send leaders there, usually domestic in America, some international. It's about $2,000. It's about a year course, year and a half. You get certified. What it is, we have this whole collection of 20 volumes of anything that you can think of on how to start a ministry and have a successful ministry. We sell it for probably about $300. It retails for about $625. But these are things that you can literally, it's DVDs, about 70 DVDs. They're all teachings that you would just sit down with your group, whoever, Bible talk leaders, assistant Bible talk leaders, and you just show the DVD. And it teaches, you don't get certified, but it shows you all the training that you would normally receive if you were there. So that's super valuable. Most of the domestic in America, I gave it, we sold it to almost every major church. Well, we did sell it to every major church, just to help them, thrive again. Sorry. Okay. I'm going a lot faster than I thought. Okay, so I talked to my boss, and so the last thing I wanted to leave you with was probably the best part for leaders. That is the discount. So as leaders, we give you a 25% discount if you're domestic. If you're international, we typically give you between 40 and 60%. That's so that it makes up the cost of the shipping typically to you. We do that deal based on smaller quantities to larger quantities. We have people that they start, and this is something that I borrowed from somebody else. They talk about this thing called little libraries. If you type that in Google under images, it'll bring up all these little libraries that have been set up internationally and nationally in America all over. It's basically just like a library, like a box put into your church. The leader orders the books. If you do the library, you get a 50% discount automatically. And what that does is you have them locally. They have like a little sign paper when they check out a book, so that everyone has access to these resources. Now, I'll say internationally, it's you guys, those of you who are, you guys eat this stuff up. They love resources so much, and I thought this was just a great idea. I saw it somewhere, and then I typed it in, found it. Usually there's somebody in your congregation that's a carpenter or knows how to build. They build an ice box. You put it in the church or the leader's house or somewhere. But it gives them access to all these resources, and people are hungry for them. And then they don't know what there is until they see it. And, also then it's a flurry. They read a book, they're like, you got to read this. They tell the next person. And it's a domino effect. And that's what happened with me when I became a disciple. We just kind of were trying to outdo each other. Like, man, did you read this? Did you read that? Man, and we would just share so much more as a single, just in our households, in our quiet times. They were just deeper. People were they were fired up for the Lord in a way that you can't make them fired up, or no sermon would do. It's just the learning power, each of us sharing, the fellowship. As well, we do also do bulk discounts. So like for Mexico, they ordered 2,000 copies. I'm not saying that much, but 100 on up. We really try to work with you. This is a ministry for us. it is not a business. We don't make a lot of money doing this because we're trying to gain all these resources for you guys. Basically, we kind of make enough to just pay for what we have, but we've been literally doubling every year in our gross income as a company because of all the authors we've taken on, because you guys are really hungry. You have people that are really, they're in a weird spot, usually the 27 to like 40 age. They're not sure where they fit in, because traditionally for me, all the leaders were kind of pulled from campus and raised in campus and groomed from there. I came in as a disciple at 27, so I kind of just didn't know exactly where I fit initially, and like how could I contribute. And that's what the resources do, is they help you to understand wherever you're at how to contribute more in such a way that it benefits the whole. Book tables, let's see. So also, I get a lot of calls about secular books. In our movement, I do carry books that, like Sam Lang would recommend, or any one of the teachers, like the 5 love languages, love and respect, set apart. We have publishing relationships with almost all of those publishers. So what that means to you is that if you wanted to buy a large amount, you could call us. We can get you a better discount, ship it direct to you, and invoice you. So typically we give the church, if it's the church buying it, we give you anywhere from 30 to 60 days net. So you don't have to pay for it right away. Once you get it, you could collect the money and then pay for it that way, however you want. We try to just make it as easy as possible so that you guys can do the most with what you have. Bibles as well. We give you guys a 40% discount on Bibles. Okay, the only thing that we ask from you is that we need the ISBN numbers. That's the 13-digit number that's on the back of it or somewhere in the description of it. We have a lot of Bibles on our website, and I can get really cheap Bibles. I can get really expensive Bibles, pretty much the gamut. As long as I have that number, I can order those for you. So for a lot of baby Christians or during graduation, we order a ton of those Bibles to be able to give out to all the graduates. Also for printing, we are a publishing house. We do anything that has to do with print. So that means business card, calendars, flyers for Women's Day. We do everything, bulletins, curriculum. We do calendars. We probably sell about 10,000 calendars over our movement in the United States, and probably 30,000 business cards. We can get them for cheaper typically, and it's the quality, and we can usually do the graphic design for very cheap. Disciples, sometimes they don't know the price of stuff. So graphics design, like what we do, it's usually $100 an hour. And the typical design might take anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. So that's just the graphic design. That's not even so we charge a lot less than that, and it's also dependent on, if you're international or national. We really want to help both, and we kind of know which ones can afford, the content. Does anyone have any questions? Because I really didn't think I was going to go that fast, but amen. Anyone have any questions? No. I did want to say one thing. We have Miss Nicole Tawalawi right here. She's in our New York church. The reason I'm pointing her out is she started a book table, and any one of you can start a book table. Usually we just ask that you get the blessing of the evangelist, make sure that he wants a book table, that it's legal. Some places it's not. And we can start you, and it's a 50% discount automatically. And I also have deals for the book tables. Why is this important? Nicole has really went after it in such a way that she's trying to get the other churches in New York to have book tables as well, because your people need to trust the information that they're being given. That's really the biggest thing, and that's what we really offer is an automatic speed of trust. That what we sell is trusted because of the people who are doing it. Sam Lang and Jerry, they do a wonderful job. We're trying to pull as much out of Sam as possible. Gordon Ferguson as well. And we're working on with these guys, and they all have projects in the making. They all have at least 2 to 4 things that we're still trying to do for them within the next 6 months. The website, all my business cards are out there. Make sure you take a couple, 5. You can take the whole stack, whatever you like. But we have these, all these new books are on our website. We're updating it all the time. I do have an app for Illumination Publishers on both platforms. And also, it has first principles in it, like the kind of the original ones that we did, with some added stuff from our Greater Houston Church. So, we really want to try to make these things available to you in such a way that it just makes it easy. Most people just don't know where to go. They don't even know about us or where to buy the resources. So we know that at the book table, sometimes that's your last chance, or you feel that way. So. Amen. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Yes.
Question.
Yes.
He wants to ask about other languages. Do you have a plan for translating in other languages?
So here's what I'll say about that. That's a great question. Thank you for that question. Your native language, whatever it is, there's typically not copyright laws for other languages or books to be translated in other languages. That goes for anything that you've probably ever seen, any secular book, any of our stuff, because it's not written in English. There's no copyright to it, because your language typically, there's more than one language that's being spoken in a church. In Africa, I know that there's a universal language for a lot of them, so they could translate it into that. You can translate it if you have a translator. I mean, even if you wanted to do it in a word, and you have somebody that really has that kind of heart, that's not you don't even technically have to ask us. It's something that you can do. Mexico has been doing it for a long time. They translated The Lion Never Sleeps, The Killer Within, Reasons for Belief. Like when they first wrote those books, because how awesome they were. So it's just a matter of getting someone who's, I guess, qualified with your language, or if there's a universal one, because even in Spanish, a lot of them talk a slightly different dialect. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah? Okay. And if anyone emails me, if you're not already on my email list, I do an email blast with specials, all of our new stuff. And does everyone know about disciplestoday.org? Okay. In America, they don't. I don't know. But yeah, that's really a great resource as well. It's linked to the Disciples Today Media Shop, which we run both. We take the invoices for both. We ship out for both of them. So either one is good, as well as we have constant new updates for old books. And you guys can always ask me a question, send me an email, whatever you would like. I mean, I'm pretty responsive within 24 hours. And I just want to say also, we have the new Kids Kingdom, or the old Kids Kingdom curriculum. It's already done. It's, I believe for here it's $100. It's normally $200. Just to let you guys know, because I've had a lot of people ask me about this, so I brought them here. And this is like the entire PDFs from 4 years old, or from 2 years old to 4th grade to preteens. So, alrighty. Yes.
I just want to say thank you. And our ministry has a book table. It's every Sunday it's up. We have some women. It's their ministry. And that's the thing I'd say is in every ministry there's usually a number of people that really have a passion for this.
Yes.
And are willing to take it on. So as the women's ministry leader, I don't have to. I do still do a lot of the ordering, just because I love it.
Yes.
But it's great to find someone who really has a passion. Yeah. And then, a lot of people want to use their gifts, and it's a great way to make or help members feel needed and used. But I totally believe in Every ministry should have a book table.
Yep.
It's just, and every Sunday they come to church and it's there. We have a lot of non-Christians who buy Bibles after church.
Yes.
It's not looking for Bibles. We sell tons of Bibles. But anyway, thank you.
And Nicole is actually an entrepreneur. So the idea also, just so you know, is we do one or two things. It's either run by the church or it's run by someone who has an entrepreneurial spirit. Either way, we're good with, as long as it's blessed by the church and the evangelists and whoever the powers that be. So that's always open. And if you want a book table in your church, it's probably you that's going to run it. Just so you know. Because a lot of people go, man, I wish we had a book table in our church. And I'm like, I do the actual book table at mine in the Greater Houston Church. 50% of my inventory at every conference is Bibles, by the way. Because disciples don't buy new ones unless they see them right in front of them. They're always given one, or they buy one when they became a disciple.
Yeah, that's true.
So I do sell a ton of Bibles. Thank you, guys. Stop it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure I'll hammer and send it. Receive an email back and put once in a while.